Hello and welcome. There are a few people on the beach today. I suppose leading up to this last few days towards Christmas, the holiday season, there will be more people here. On yesterday afternoon, I had some visitors from America. Not exactly that, some Sri Lankans whom have lived in America for some 25 years, here for the holiday season, visiting relatives in Gaul, arrived at Colombo, and on their way through, much to my delight, rather than them taking their ordinary main road, highway, straight to Gaul from Colombo, they came via this coastal route and visited me yesterday afternoon. So that was a great pleasure. Wonderful to see people whom have been, or have seen this channel a long way away, coming back to their homeland, their native place, and visiting me and welcoming me to their country also. So that was great. It was wonderful, a wonderful thing to see, wonderful people to meet face to face. And also, unrelated, but leading up to, I suppose, in this holiday season, the 23rd here, this year, I think it varies in order to be at a weekend, there is a Perahera. Now this is the Sinhalese word for procession, I think, and it is known as a Buddhist festival here, but it's not one of the main internationally recognized Buddhist festivals. Here they have many other cultural influences, and you may have heard of the procession of the tooth in Kandy, where the Buddha's tooth relic is supposedly held, and over a 9-day period, I think, is let out of the confines of its temple for the public to see. Well, at least see it being carried in its container throughout the town each night in a big procession called a Perahera, I think is the word. And they have something on a very much smaller scale here. I'm very glad it's on a much smaller scale. It's only one night, I think, on the 23rd. And the reason I'm very glad is because where I live is right in the middle of this procession. So, literally, it's where they come from a temple, bringing some relics in a procession with all of the throwing fire, drums, horns, loudness, firecrackers, and all of this accompanying this relic, exactly of which relic I'm not sure, from a temple around this town. And it's quite a big tourist attraction, and it's very much a big party and festival event for the local people here, who will be celebrating all night, I suppose. Being amidst it all, I'll have no choice other than to witness most of it. I'm not being negative about it, but it isn't really my thing. The idea is very nice. I'm not very keen on the whole use of elephants with regards to anything other than allowing them to wander around the jungle. So I won't say any more than that. And even though in the time of the Buddha, there is a sutta which says, that's comparing us to our practice about how a well-trained elephant is trained to ignore the drums and the horns and the firecrackers. Even in the Buddha's time, this was going on. But I'm not so sure in the Buddha's time that they had very good mahouts, the trainers of elephants, in that time, as they probably do now. But whether the mahouts of the Buddha's era would use modern-day tranquilizers for the elephant's peace and tranquility or peace of mind, I'm not sure. Maybe they did, of some equivalent. Nevertheless, the need of such things is indicative to me that they don't like it. I don't like it much, and I'm a human. I have some events I go to as a monk where I feel sometimes that, you know, you can be a little bit on parade when you're with many other monks, and it's hot and it's many people and lots of noise and goings on, and I grin and bear it. It's my duty, but it's also my choice, and I don't do it very often. As you've probably seen, I tend to stick alone with my practice, but the poor old elephants have no choice. They have chains, and I'm not happy to see that or be a part of it, really. So I probably won't be sharing that video or making a video of that to share with you, as I did a little bit of the preliminary events for the Katina they had here, which is a very similar but smaller scale. I also believe these are rather commercial, these things these days, but they probably always were. It's nothing to do with these days. These are ancient traditions, which are really also quite influenced by Hindu. They have their Hindu. This happens in Hindu temples almost every day of the year all around India, where relics or effigies, idols are taken from a temple in a upper high street and back again for many people to come and worship and see what they wouldn't ordinarily see. Maybe it relates a lot to the old caste system, where some people of certain castes weren't allowed into the temple, and maybe that was their only opportunity to see these idols and these relics that they were worshipping, praying to. Maybe it's that, I don't know. I'm uninformed of these things. This is the Hindu religion, but this has an influence culturally over Buddhist practices here, and similarly, like in other Buddhist countries, they have their other cultural influences. So I can't help but be a part of it. I have said to the beach people what they asked, and I said of course it's okay. They're going to probably hang around at my place because it's probably a very good viewpoint. They've made a little stadium, stands further down on the main road, but my place is quite right in the thick of it. It's where they turn around, I think, more or less. And I'll have some hot water and coffee on the go for them, make them feel at home, and help them enjoy their evening's celebration without getting too affected and sad about the poor old elephants. I'd like to say I'm only happy it's once a year for the elephants, but I'm not sure. I've been to some places and I'm not sure that they have a very free time the rest of it either. But the year, that is. This is another matter. We have suffering in the world. This is dukkha. The Buddha told us that. And we practice in order to be free from suffering and to liberate ourselves from rebirth. And as nice as it might seem to be reborn as an elephant, it rather depends where you end up. So we practice to try and avoid being born in the animal realms. It can also be said that these elephants are making punya, merit. This is everybody's opinion, each to their own. And I'm not casting any aspersions, making any judgment or criticisms over any activities that I know very little about. I'm uninformed and not in a position to comment on, other than to tell you what's going on around me, what I see, and no doubt will hear, smell, probably taste and touch and experience. And maybe I'll share with you my thoughts on the whole experience next week. So that's happening in a couple of days, or on tomorrow, actually, when you're watching this, on Saturday evening. And as my routine has now established itself, that I probably don't make a Dharma talk or questions and answer video on Saturday or Sunday for you. I let that be a welcome break for you and for me to just practice, or maybe in your case you could, if you really wanted to watch something, look back at this. Bound to be some of these videos you haven't seen. There are so many. So if you go back also on that point, YouTube slowly but surely are sorting out the questions. I don't know how they do it. It transcribes into subtitles for people, and by the same means they can separate the questions. If I speak clearly and slowly enough, the more quickly I speak, I think the longer it takes them to do whatever they do to make that happen. But it's quite useful in that you can search for a specific question or even just visually look, because sometimes I've noticed my titles are a little misleading. Maybe I should make them a little bit less clickbait and more to the point of what the subject matter contained in the video is. So I'm slapping myself on the wrists there, and as much fun as I have with these titles, maybe I should make them a little bit more applicable to the content. They're relevant, but perhaps some of them are a little tongue-in-cheek. My pathetic attempt at some sort of subtle humour, as far as it's allowed to go as a bhikkhu, as a monk. So that's the announcements. Perahera and my visitors. So I hope if you get an opportunity to see this video whilst you're still here, I hope those friends of mine that visited have a wonderful stay with their family in this holiday season. I know they're here for a couple of weeks, and a safe journey back, and that they are able to keep in touch in the future. Let's see if I have some comments and questions. I know there's a few to talk about. We'll start at the beginning. I have highlighted the questions in some of these, so if you don't quite at first recognise your question, I may have just taken the question out of the, whatever you'd call it, the qualifying statement that I don't need to read out. Can you still be a Christian and believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God whilst also reading the words of the Buddha and incorporating his teachings into your life? Well, the short answer is yes, you can do anything you like. And you are, when you say though, and I have to start now just picking it apart a bit, not in a unkind way, just to make sure I understand the question, but when you say still be a Christian, my understanding is that the fundamental basis of being a Christian is to have the belief in not only Jesus Christ being the Son of God, but the resurrection. And with that in mind, unless you believe that, then in accordance with the Church of England's idea of what a Christian is, then you're not really a practicing Christian. Although from my point of view, Jesus Christ was a teacher whom doesn't require belief in. There's documentary evidence to prove his existence, and one can still follow his teachings and also pick from those teachings what is relevant to your life. But that's not the Church's view, that's mine. In terms of its compatibility with the Buddha's teachings, is the Buddha didn't deny of other realms. In fact, he spoke of heavenly realms, hell realms in their multitude, but the contradictory aspect of Buddhism and any theistic faith, I think any theistic faith I can include, is that in Buddhism all conditioned things, this is the Buddha's words, all conditioned things are impermanent, whereas of course a God is infinite. The heavens and hell realms in those Abrahamic faiths are infinite, and the life of your own soul is infinite in that very same respect also, whereas in Buddhism everything is impermanent, and even there is no soul, there is no personality that is reborn, merely this, we call it the citta, but if you think, you can think of it as the mind as opposed to the intellectual thinking brain, some locationless knowingness, witness, observer, idea, thoughts, that is what you are, only this is passed on, and its momentum, its direction is determined by your actions, we call karma, of body, speech and mind, and the results of those actions, in Pali we call vipaka, are the results of causes and conditions you put in place for future rebirth, which therefore could be as an elephant, or it could be as a elephant trainer, a mahout, or it could be as a deva in heavenly realms. The Buddha doesn't discount any of this. So there is no real contradiction other than how you understand the faith that you are practicing. So in my opinion, which is to some extent irrelevant, I think you can pick and choose a little, but I couldn't continue to go to the Christian church when I found it impossible to put my hand on my heart as you do and swear the apostolic creed, which is I believe in one almighty permanent God and the resurrection of his son Jesus Christ, in a very short summarized form, because I don't believe in that. So standing every Sunday saying that was hypocritical and not true. So I'll leave that to others to believe, discern, establish in their own minds as to what parts they take. If you are a practicing Christian and you're exploring the teachings of the Buddha, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. You can only learn you'll only learn from it sila, morality, which is very compatible with Christianity. Meditation is also compatible with, there are Christian faiths, orders, let's say, of monks and nuns who practice meditation. It's a very good practice. It's in a different form, but it's still meditation. And of course the development of wholesome mind states, reduction of unwholesome mind states, wisdom, is also compatible with Christianity. The other way round, as a Buddhist, you ought to have developed the understanding of impermanence, the understanding of suffering, and the understanding of not self, which kind of precludes you from the Christian arena, excludes you rather from the Christian arena, because why would you be drawn to such, dare I say, fantasy, if you've already seen the truth? I'll leave that there, that might be provocative. But good question. Dear teacher, I'll read this as I see it. Your opinion about Dharma teachings is not your sorry, I'll start again, I've misread. Dear teacher, your opinion about Dharma teachings in not your mother tongue is based on your lack of experience to learn and understand Dharma teachings in other languages. You are very close to understanding the matter anyway. Well, thank you for the end bit there. Well, I don't disagree with you. Yes, I am ignorant of other languages. I haven't tried to learn other languages, and I certainly haven't tried to teach Dharma. Well, I couldn't, as I haven't learned any other languages, or wouldn't try to teach Dharma in other languages. But you might have just misunderstood what I was saying. I agree with you. Yes, I'm lazy. I haven't wasted my time learning languages in all of the countries I've lived in. I would not have had time to practice if I had. I would have been learning languages. It's a very mind-occupying process, learning languages. And as we're trying to settle our minds, calm our minds, it's also very pointless if I'm moving from country to country, because what I would have learnt language-wise in the countries I've lived in so far would be really of no use to me now, other than to be a translator in a work environment, or to be spouting Dharma in many languages. Now, this is what I was talking about. I hear Dharma talks from people whose mother tongue is not English. Now, I do hear very good Dharma teachers who have established English as a natural language, and I'm not talking about that. But I could never in this lifetime learn a language that well. It's my deficiency. I'm criticizing myself, not others. Okay, so let's get that clear. But I do hear foreign monks, foreign to me, that is English, reading suttas. And it's very nice that they take the time and trouble, and it's also good practice that they take the time and trouble to read the suttas for those who wish to listen to them. But I don't enjoy listening to them. I would rather read the sutras myself. And then I'm hearing it, absorbing it, without having to think about how the intonation of each word is held, or my perhaps involuntary reaction to how a word is pronounced. It's simple. I just read it for myself, no problem. When it comes to actually teaching the Dharma, unless that person has adopted English as their very natural language, I find it difficult to listen to. It's not a complicated subject, but it has to be taught very simply, and that way, well, it doesn't have to be taught very simply, but there's a tendency with this language barrier to get too technical, and it's often mixed up with a lot of Pali. So you'll hear, let's say, a Burmese, a Sri Lankan, or an Indian person giving a Dharma talk. You will notice a lot of it is in the Pali language, because that is our common arena, and that is good. That's why we have this Pali language. That's how I can live in different countries, practice what I practice, the chanting, the ceremonies, and understand, be able to even talk a little in just simple singular words of Pali to people. But you'll rarely hear them just purely speaking Dharma talks. And when you do, I don't find that it doesn't settle with me smoothly. So I was talking about it the other way round, that's all. I just don't like, I know I can't do it, and I admire their language skills, but I'm not here to learn or develop any skills other than that of Sila, Samadhi and Panya. And we all nowadays, this is the beauty of everything, have the opportunity to listen to Dharma in our own languages, whether we're English, Hindi speaking, Sinhalese or Burmese, it doesn't matter. We have that opportunity to listen to Dharma in our own languages. So we should listen to Dharma in our own languages, despite the reputation of a teacher. Because if you're listening to it in a different language and then having to translate it or think about it twice in your mind, then you're not using, it's not the best use of your listening time. I think I've really said enough about that one now anyway. I don't mean to be dismissive or rude, as I say. I mean, I listen to a German Ajahn who is a very good Dharma teacher that I listen to. Many Eastern European Ajahns of that origin, so much they speak such natural English I wouldn't know which countries they come from. I'm trying to think of. But I don't really listen to even my own teacher's Dharma talks from Thailand because they're unless they're written down, when you can read them, then that's different. But even when they're translated, I'd rather read them written down, because then when they're translated, I don't get the feel for that person's voice, that whole personality thing we say that isn't you. There is still an existence, and that's going to bring me on to this next question, which I don't really understand. So let me start from where the lead in. During your spiritual search leading to Buddhism, have you ever come across non-duality? Okay, so firstly, I haven't really had a spiritual search. I've never been looking for anything. Perhaps more just uncovering what I know we already all have, and that is deep within us. I believe we're born with innocent and with purity, whereas in fact this is contrary to Abrahamic faiths, and I'm not sure about other theistic religions, where you are born sinners. But in my opinion, and in Buddhism, we're born pure. But then we add all of this bunkum on top of that through our education and our growing years, formative years, to disguise that purity and become sinners, if you like. defilements take over. Greed, hatred, delusion takes over. I knew that being born pure, we can find that purity within each of us can find that within ourselves. So in a way it is seeking in that sense, but it doesn't mean you've got to go looking for a teacher, go looking for a religion. I wasn't doing that. It just so happened that the teachings of the Buddha fell into a category which show us how we do that, how we expose that inner purity. They call it the Buddha within, the inner Buddha. Or Bodhisattva even within us all in other traditions. But as far as this non-duality is concerned, in the old scriptures, in the Pali canon, in the Theravada tradition of Buddhism, it doesn't get mentioned, non-duality specifically. There is a Pali word, or one of the Buddha's words, I've forgotten what it is, Vayaya or something, I can't remember. So it isn't just dismissed because it's unheard of. It just doesn't come into his teaching because it isn't part of our understanding of, it isn't part of this Theravada Buddhist philosophy, although it does play a part in Mahayana and therefore in Tibetan and other traditions, but I'm not part of that. So in my case, which is what your question is about, did I come across it? I haven't come across it, only in conversation like this. And then you say, I guess it has similarities with Buddhism. What do you think of it, if at all? I don't think of it at all. In fact, I had to Google it to check I understood it, and even from reading Wikipedia's explanation of non-duality, I cannot honestly say I understand what it even means. Other than, in a way, it's contrary to my understanding of the Buddha's teachings in that we are not this body, we are not this thinking mind, but there is something that knows of this body and this thinking mind. Now, my very limited understanding of what non-duality would imply that there is not this knowing, there is not this witness, there is not this observer, but yet we are all one. I am as much a piece of this log that the camera is sitting on as this log is a piece of me. Now, certainly physically that is the case. We are elements of this same earth element, solidity, and if I was to die here and rot in this space, this log would rot, it would all become sand mixed up with the water and the rain, new life would form from it in the nature, in insects and trees and bushes, and the sea would wash it away. We're all one in that sense, but there is this mind that knows this, that is going to take on another vehicle, rebirth we call this, into another body, not reincarnated, no personality traits go with that, but depending, like I've just said, with regards to our karma, the momentum is created for rebirth, and I think that is opposed to the idea of non-duality. But you don't need to write in and explain non-duality to me. It's very much part of other philosophies and religions, and I'm really quite content with my understanding of what the Buddha had to say about life and teach us, and that is sufficient for this lifetime for me to progress along the path he showed us. Do Buddhists believe in the creator of this universe? I think I've probably answered that already in just the last few questions, but in answer to your question, no, we don't believe in that. I was thinking of death and leaving the body being the last, I'm reading that very badly. I'll start again. I was thinking of death and leaving the body being the last renunciation, bit by bit, little by little, but not in a morbid way. Well, I think that's a fairly skillful, wholesome way to think of it. Physical death, however, isn't though within our control. So it isn't, in essence, renunciation unless we've done the work first. If we've done the work first, right up until death, we've established this practice such that we have the understanding of anatta, that this physical body, this thinking mind, is not us, and we have lost that attachment to it, we've let go of this being, this personality, then at that point, that is the renunciation, whether the body still lives on or dies. After all, an arahant can go on in life teaching for many years. The Buddha taught for he died when he was 85. He taught for 45 years after having attained to Buddhahood. So he knew that his body was of no importance or consequence, but he still continued, but was not attached to his body. So his body didn't have to die for him to have renounced it. So in that respect, renunciation has intention behind it. It has effort, right effort, virya, in the Noble Eightfold Path. As far as parami is concerned, and in the Noble Eightfold Path, intention. So intention and effort together. The intention to renounce attachment to the body, yes, is a skillful and wholesome idea. But death can come at any time. We may not have reached that goal, that aspiration, by that time, in which case that is the momentum for rebirth, unless we have ceased to be attached to this body. But thinking this way will only assist in that process. So thank you for your comment. It's good for you to be thinking that way. When I meditate, I count the breath to 10 and repeat over and over. Is this correct? If not, what should I do? How's it going? A good way to start, actually the way I started with learning breath meditation, anapanasati, was that technique. Counting to 10 at first I found difficult. Especially if you're not sitting in meditation, in your daily activities, you're walking around and you try and count the breath in the background. And if you miscount, you start again, you start again, you start again. And in meditation, similarly, you count breathing in 1, breathing out 1, breathing in 2, breathing out 2. Or I used to prefer to breathe in 1, breathe out 2, breathe in 3, breathe out 4. I don't know why, I think that's easier. But either way, when you lose count, at least you know you've lost attention of the breath. You've got a number to put it to. Now, if you're counting very well to 10, then without ever missing a count, then there is time now to beef it up a little bit. What I mean by that is, this isn't our end goal to be able to count the breath. This is just a tool. This is like stabilizers to help us focus our attention, our awareness on the breath as a meditation object, without those stabilizers, without the counting. Counting can also become a little bit rote. So the ways we can do this is we start off this practice of counting just to 3, 1, 2, 3 breaths, in which case it is important to really just do 1 in, 1 out, 2 in, 2 out, 3 in, 3 out, back to the beginning, until you can get used to that. Then up to 5, then maybe 10. If you're struggling, you might have to practice at 10 for some time. Once you've got the knack of 10, then before it just becomes a rote, a habit, and you're not actually aware of the breath because you can count 10 breaths and think about all sorts of other things, then you need to mix it up. Now you can either extend the counting to 20, 50, 100. I used to count to 108, and it's very difficult at first. But when you can do that, and you can do that also walking around during your daily activities, you are able to, you are quite sure that you're able to maintain attention on the breath, because you'll lose count and you'll probably not even roughly know what number you lost count at, but you've got to start again, and it's, oh no, I know I nearly got there, but I've got to start again. It's bringing that awareness back to the breath. So it's a good practice, it's a good training exercise, but it's not the practice, it's a training exercise to really stretch that ability to concentrate on the breath, and it's a very good training exercise. You can also go backwards, count backwards. A technique I used that an Ajahn referred to in a talk once, which I found very beneficial, was to count to 108 and then go backwards from 108, because it does really require the thinking capacity as far as keeping the numbers in the right order and the attention on the breath, and doing that in conjunction with your daily activities is proof that we can, even still in meditation, with such a complex exercise as counting backwards from, say, 108, still be thinking about other things. So it's just indicative, it's not the end solution. What we're looking to do is just bring our awareness to the breath and the quality of the breath. And it's much better to really listen to the Anapanasati Sutta instructions. Know those inside out, as the Buddha himself in his words taught us. He didn't say count the breath. He says know the breath. Know the quality of the breath in terms of, is it short, is it long, is it deep, is it shallow, is it smooth, rough, warm, cool. Know all of these these faculties of the factors of the breath, these characteristics of the breath as you are breathing in, as you are breathing out. And most importantly, really learn to enjoy that activity of inhalation and that activity even of exhalation. So breathing in, refreshing, invigorating, breathing out, cooling and calming and relaxing. And just know it as that. And getting this feel for the breath in that way draws not only your attention, your awareness intellectually into the breath, it draws your liking and disliking, your emotional side of thinking into the breath also, which helps to calm that emotional side of your thinking, helps to calm the mind as well as the body. Well, I think that's all of the questions for today. Let me just double check. Yes. So we come to the end of another week here in Sri Lanka. I've lost track, I'm not sure how long I've been here for now. But the next Uposatha is the full moon of December on the 26th, which is, I don't even know what the day is now, it's around the 20th or 21st. Oh, it's the 21st, I know that because I have an appointment this evening. So, so it must be the 21st. So I will be speaking to you again on Monday. It'll be Christmas Day, won't it? It doesn't make much difference to me here. So please, I don't mind if nobody watches these videos on Christmas Day, but my routine continues as normal. And I will, though, however, have you all in my thoughts, those of you whom are enjoying as when I messaged my son to say happy birthday to my now 2-year-old grandson, approaching his 3rd Christmas, I messaged my son to say that, happy birthday, little man, and my son replied, hope you enjoy your run down to Christmas, which I didn't quite get, and I've just, as I was about to say run up to Christmas, realised that maybe he was, I don't know. I hope you enjoy your run up, run down, whatever it is, towards this Christmas, this festive time, as best you can. And if you can continue this practice throughout that holiday period and take the opportunity of some extra spare time to listen to Dharma or just simply sit and practice meditation and reflect on, we're coming to a calendar year end, reflect on the year gone by and how you are now compared to this time last year, if you've been practicing that long, even if you've just began practicing. It's interesting to draw that comparison, and that is the only way we can see how we are progressing on the path, by looking back, by reflecting and looking back some distance, because it is a slow progression, but a steady And it's a one-way progression. What you gain through this practice, even if you stop practicing tomorrow, when you pick up the practice again, it will continue from where you left off. And I'll leave you with that as a closing thought, because it's very encouraging to know that. And I hope in that vein and on that basis you can enjoy your holiday period if I don't speak to you beforehand. And Merry Christmas to you all. Actually, I'll just add a bit on. I said Merry Christmas to someone this morning. I live near my house in the little village road I walk down. There's a Buddhist lady, lives with a Catholic man, and he set up a beautiful nativity in his front garden on the fence with the little straw stable, the baby Jesus, the Mary, and the shepherds, and what looked to be the wise men. But in the very old-fashioned Western idea of the wise men, because these are quite old-fashioned nativity figures, and I said to him, the man, I said, Merry Christmas. I don't know how much English he spoke, but I said, you should really have 3 Sinhalese bhikkhus there, because it is said that these wise men who came from the East, after all, that is in the Bible, were wise men or kings, it's sometimes translated as. Or was it 3 kings and 3 wise men? Anyway, they came from the East. What is the East to where Jesus was born? Here, or India. So it is most probable that these were Buddhist monks that came. Also, what are they offering? Well, one's offering gold, so that wouldn't have been a Buddhist monk, obviously. But maybe, because they don't need it. Frankincense, it's incense, and myrrh for preserving the dead body after he died. So the incense was being offered to that, the light of Jesus. So there we go, my little festive, we had the light of the star as well at the Nativity. Anyway, that was my little Merry Christmas exchange with my neighbour, which I was very happy to share with him, because, as you know, I'm, what's the word, ecumenical in all my ideas. I don't discount anyone's faiths. If people are practicing, whatever they're practicing, if it's helpful and it makes them happy, that makes me happy. So have a happy and Merry Christmas if I don't speak to you in the meantime. And be happy, stay well. If there's anything useful in here, please use it or let it go. And thank you for watching. Sukhi Hotu. I'd like to buy some little Buddhist monks and ask if I can put them in his nativity scene. It would look very, I think it would be more accurate. So there's a little add-on there for you.